Okay, wow. I was not planning on doing any of this today at all. And it looks like I'm having trouble getting to Rumble right now. But live on Facebook, live on YouTube. Let me know if you guys can hear this because I am testing some new stuff. But there's shenanigans going on up in Ottertail County at that BPOU meeting right now. I caught wind of it on Facebook. Rocks and Cows are up there doing some live feeds. And I have to make sure people know about this stuff because we constantly hear, and I kind of share the same sentiment of unity. We must be unified. We can't keep attacking one another. And every time I hear some swamp creature talk about unifying, I never hear them talk about unifying behind what? Like what exactly? And what I've come to learn is when they say we need to unify, they mean just shut up and ignore my actions and just do, get behind me. That's what they're talking about. Get behind the political class, get behind the rhinos. What I think we should be unifying behind is actually, I don't know, our party platform. Instead of continuing to vote for clowns that vote like Democrats, we should be getting behind liberty, advancing our conservative agenda. That's what we should be unifying behind. And I think and hope everybody can agree with that. But this whole unity for the sake of unifying, and again, when it comes from these swamp creatures, all they mean is ignore how I voted and just support me now that I'm looking to get your vote. And it just pisses me off. And it's happening right now in Ottertail County. They have people, 33 delegates in Ottertail County right now at their BPOU convention. And all these conventions are going on between February 1st and March 1st. So sometime this month, your BPOU is going to have a convention. And if you're a delegate, you need to go. And I'll get into that more. But that is where they're electing party leadership. And to kind of set the table, I just took a little snip of somebody's live feed. So they do a better job explaining this to me. So here's a quick 50-second video just to walk through what's going on up there literally right now as I speak.
Carol Hexam. We are here at the Ottertail County BPOU at the convention. However, 33 of us are unable to attend the convention because, according to them, we did not support the endorsing candidates, so we are being suspended from being seated at the convention. 33 of us are outside here wanting to be seated, wanting to be entered, but they will not allow us to enter the convention because we did not support and endorse candidates. 33 of us are outside here waiting to be entered, but we will not be able to enter the convention. This is what tyranny is, taking the power from the people and centralizing it in the leadership's hand. There are new bylaws too that will be voted in today.
So there you go. The crime that these delegates, these duly elected, right? There's a legal process that's in state statute, how delegates get elected at caucus night on February 1st last year. A lot of you guys probably went to that. I mean, there was like thousands and thousands of new caucus goers. A year and 10 days ago, tons of people became delegates at the state convention. It looked like half, maybe it was even 60%. I can't remember, but they did a show of hands or maybe even a clicker vote. And like half the body was brand new, first time they've ever went. So talk about disenfranchising these first timers. They're not being seated because their crime, they didn't support an endorsed candidate. Okay, so those are their actions. Well, oh man, when I got wind of that this morning, because there is a laundry list of these rhinos, these weak Republicans that they haven't supported endorsed candidates either. I've been an endorsed candidate and attacked by Kurt Dowd in the HRCC. I guarantee you Kurt Dowd is getting seated at his BPOU convention. So I'm going to walk through a lot of these examples that I have. But first of all, I think we need to look at who's in charge, and maybe not even technically in charge, but who's behind this shit show in Ottertail County. There's two people, and the candidate they're referring to is the new state senator, Jordan Rasmussen. So what they have is they have proof up there that the Ottertail County Republicans broke the law and just put new delegates on their list. And she talks about that in her video. And I've had several conversations with people up in Ottertail County about this. So they have proof that these people cheated. They put people on the delegate rolls that were not voted in as delegates. They were not voted in through abstention. They were just added to the rolls. And so a lot of people up there were pissed off about that because how this person, new state senator Jordan Rasmussen, how they stole this endorsement by stacking the deck and putting delegates on the roster that were not elected at caucus night a year and 10 days ago. So Jordan Rasmussen is very well aware of what's going on up there. He's the new state senator. He did have a challenger. I think I'm trying to blank on his name. Somebody throw his name out there. I'll look at the comments. Well, good morning, Jerome. All right, I'll avoid looking at the comments. That could be draw me down real quick, but I can't remember Nathan something. But so the newly elected Jordan Rasmussen to the Senate, he was in the House last year. And let me tell you, this guy's a total swamp creature. This guy donated $40,000 to the HRCC. And what the HRCC does, of course, even though they're a party unit, they're an official party unit of the Republican Party, they turn around and routinely attack endorsed candidates like they did to me. They've done to Jeremy Munson. They've done to Cal Barr. Like this guy, $40,000 donated to the HRCC back in 2020. So if that isn't, I mean, that's like one of the most telltale signs that the guy is no good at all. And the other person up there, and these are the people, these are like the real scumbags in politics. These are the people that think they can hide behind the scenes and no one really knows that they exist, but they sit there and raise a bunch of money for the candidates of their choosing, right? The people that like Jordan here, that votes like a Democrat. I'm going to get in some voting scorecards here. I have a lot of stuff. I'm sorry, but buckle up because I've got so many things and videos and pictures. Starting with this one next. This guy, Tommy Miracle, works for the Taylor Corporation. I've got another little fun video we'll play about this guy. This guy, I believe, is in charge of the Ottertail County Republicans. If he's not technically, he's definitely behind the scenes. This guy's leading a charge to block these people from being seated. And I'm sure this guy's probably a billionaire or something. But Tommy Miracle, Jordan Rasmussen, these are the scumbags up in Ottertail County right now blocking 33 duly elected delegates from being seated. So I got a little bit more about Tommy Miracle while I'm on it because I was at a caucus meeting, my first caucus meeting after getting elected. And some things were said that really blew me away. So Ann New and Kurt Dowd did a whole little presentation about the Jobs Coalition and the HRCC, of course. And they talked about how great these organizations are and why they have a distinction. Why have the Jobs Coalition? And it's become very obvious because they got, they touched a bit of a hot stove when they used the HRCC to attack people like me and Munson and Cal Barr, some of the best voting legislators that the state's probably ever had, quite honestly, on the Republican side. So they create the Jobs Coalition. And what the Jobs Coalition does, after the HRCC got in trouble, is the Jobs Coalition attacks the people that won't carry their water, the people that won't participate in the circle jerk of the Capitol. And I just had to get this ready to go because when I heard the name Tommy Miracle today, I went, I've heard that name before. So here's Ann New and Kurt Dowd talking about how they use the Jobs Coalition and how the Jobs Coalition is funded.
Obviously, also, we've been working really closely with Tommy Miracle for years. He works for Taylor Corp with Glenn Taylor. And he specifically raises money for the Minnesota Jobs Coalition, which does a lot of our independent expenditure work. We can't take corporate money as the HRCC, but the Jobs Coalition can take that corporate money. So it gives an avenue for us to reach donors who may not give out of their own pocket, but they'd love to give out of their corporate money. So Tommy's done a ton of work on that as well for us, not just to the MJC, but also to the RLSC. So, because they also have invested in our races over the years too. So
yeah, and that whole thing was something new that we've done and cultivated over the course of the last 8 years. It's something that didn't really exist before. Some states, like Wisconsin, next door to us, they can take corporate money. So it was a huge opportunity that we weren't utilizing before, and now it's a big part of how we put our campaigns together. So very appreciative of them.
Do you want to go over some of the spending?
So there you go. There's Ann New, the assistant minority leader. I don't know if she's still the assistant minority leader. I kind of don't think she is. And then the former minority leader, former Speaker of the House, Kirk Dowd, talking about, well, we formed the Jobs Coalition so we could take corporate money, so we can take that money and run our campaigns. Like if they're not crossing the line and admitting that they're breaking the law, they're very, very close to saying that, yeah, we use this, then we use the Jobs Coalition to backfill HRCC stuff. Like they know what those organizations are doing because they're both involved in it. So there's this campaign coordination going on, which again, maybe isn't illegal, maybe, but boy, they got their toes right on the line when they're out there admitting it, that they use Tommy Miracle here up in Ottertail County, who's blocking 33 delegates right now from being seated. They get this guy to donate hundreds of thousands of dollars into the Jobs Coalition so they can turn around and attack people like Mark Bishofsky, people like myself, people like Representative or former Representative Jeremy Munson. Cal Barr got attacked through the Jobs Coalition. That is the swamp attacking principled legislators. And now up in Ottertail County, just to kind of recap this again, they're not seating 33 delegates because their crime is not supporting an endorsed candidate. Well, let's talk about that because a lot of things happened last year. My state senator, Eric Pratt, lost his endorsement. What did he do? He ran in a primary against Natalie Barnes. Well, our BPOU convention was last week. We didn't tell Eric Pratt, you can't be seated as a delegate. Maybe we should have. And with this new standard that Ottertail County is putting in place with the sanction of the state party itself, which I will show you in a bit, if they're going to set that standard, well, maybe we should block these people from being seated delegates. So Eric Pratt, my state senator, didn't support the endorsed candidate in 2022. No repercussions. In fact, the state party, led by David Hahn, took away the party data access from his challenger, the endorsed candidate. So David Hahn, the entire executive committee, stabbing an endorsed candidate in the back by the name of Natalie Barnes by taking away her party access. Maybe our entire state central or our entire state committee should not be seated at the state central convention coming up this spring if they want to hold the same standard. Of course, they don't want to hold the same standard. They only want to prop up their hand-chosen people and they pick and choose when they're going to enforce these things. Paul Utke, another state senator last year, lost his endorsement, challenged his endorsed opponent in a primary, and Paul Utke won the primary. Paul Utke, I bet he's going to get seated at his BPOU convention, or maybe folks up there that are watching, maybe you don't let him be seated. After all, he didn't support the endorsed candidate, and that's the standard that's being set in Ottertail County right now. Tony Jurgens, who can forget this?
I'm Tony Jurgens. For 6 years, I've been the Republican state representative for Hastings, Cottage Grove, and Afton. Now I'm endorsing Democrat Judy Seeberger for state senate.
There, Tony Jurgens. He lost the endorsement, ran in a primary, got his butt kicked in the primary, and then didn't even endorse or support the endorsed Republican in the general. He went so far as he endorsed the Democrat for state senate that he wanted to run against. Like, how would that even happen? I can't imagine being like, I'm going to run for state senate against some Democrat and then endorse that Democrat 10 days before the election. So Tony Jurgens, should he be seated at his BPOU convention? By this new standard, I would say no, he should not be, but we'll see what happens. This is the whole point of this, is setting this dangerous precedent that if it's just going to become a purging of the party, well, then so be it. People should do that. And I'm going to tell you how you can do it if this is the path they want to go down. While these same people preach freaking unity, it is total bullshit that they want unity. So let's see. I've got so much stuff. Here we go. I talked about the state party sanction this. Here's an email from Andy Apolkowski, the political director from the Republican Party of Minnesota, saying, and I'm not going to read this whole thing, you can read it, but I'll paraphrase it, saying, yeah, you can just not seat delegates if you don't want to. Now, he refers that it's got to be in your constitution, which you could make changes to your constitution. We'll get into how you can do that, because I do want this to be not just a bitch session, but I want to empower you with what you can do to get rid of these pricks because of the way they're treating newly elected, duly elected, legally elected state delegates that they just didn't like what they did. And of course, the the delegates not getting elected, they're just pissed off that they saw this endorsement of this guy, Jordan Rasmussen, get stolen by the Ottertail County Republicans by stacking the deck and claiming these delegates were elected that were never even elected. So let's see. Oh, I got to get back to my examples. If their crime is they didn't support an endorsed candidate, well, let's talk about what happened over in, is it 33B? I think it was 33B for Mark Bishovsky. Mark Bishovsky got endorsed, I think it was like 80-20 on the first ballot, like just kicked this Tina Riley's butt. I was there for that convention. And what happened after that convention? Well, Tina Riley challenged Mark in a primary. And, you know, this happens. I've talked about it. It can happen. But how did she know how to run for office? Like, what support could she have possibly garnered if she's going to challenge an endorsed candidate? Oh, I know, right here. I posted about this last August. Somebody, a very, very amazing person who is part of these every Monday night training calls that the HRCC does, they took a screenshot showing Tina Riley's name right there in the upper left. She was participating in a training that Ann New was putting on. So not only is the HRCC supporting an unendorsed candidate, not only just supporting, training an unendorsed candidate on how to run against an endorsed candidate who was elected or endorsed with like 80% of the vote. So Ann New, should she not be seated at her BPOU convention this month? I would say no, she probably shouldn't be, if this is the standard that the state party really wants to enforce. Let's see. Ann New. Oh, so that's not even the end of 33B. What happens after that? Karin Housley, state senator. Karin Housley comes out and endorses Tina Riley, the person that Ann New and the HRCC is training on how to run against an endorsed Republican candidate named Mark Bishovsky. Karin Housley, should she be seated at her convention? I guess not. Not if this is the standard that the state party wants to throw together. If that's a crime, if that's a punishable crime, and I guess I use the word crime a little loosely here, but if it is worthy of unseating delegates, if they don't support the chosen one, well then Karin Housley should not be seated at her convention. Paul Lutke should not be seated at his. Eric Pratt should not have been seated at ours, apparently, even though we did permit him to get seated. Ann New shouldn't be seated. Let's go back to, well, even David Hahn, the entire executive committee, they attacked endorsed candidates all of 2022 during the primary when they took away party access. Bill Liskey was challenged by an unendorsed candidate down in what I think the Northfield area. And the BPOU chair down there backed Bill Liskey's opponent. I don't remember the guy's name. You probably remember. He had like the Pfizer t-shirt, like a Pfizer tattoo or something like that. The guy was like on Twitter praising Pfizer and then getting a selfie when he got his jab. So maybe that guy shouldn't be seated. Maybe the BPOU chair of that entire BPOU should not be seated at their convention if we're going to hold this standard. Michelle Fischbach, this is interesting. You had to go back to 2018 with this, but Michelle Fischbach with Tim Pawlenty, she ran as the lieutenant governor with Tim Pawlenty in 2018 and challenged the endorsed candidate, Jeff Johnson. So Michelle Fischbach, and I think Ottertail County is CB7, I'm pretty sure. So I wonder if Michelle Fischbach got seated at that convention after she refused to support the endorsed candidate of Jeff Johnson in 2018. And hopefully you're getting my point here. I'm like drilling this, that if this is what they want to do, they being the political class, the people who just want all the power, if this is what they want to do, you know, here's Andy Apolkowski's email again saying, yeah, it's fine. You can do that. If that's the standard, Andy Apolkowski, you better be prepared for the grassroots people to apply the exact same tactics, because that's what I'm encouraging people to do. And I'm going to show you how to do it. But let's get into some of I want to show you some other things here. I'm going to share my screen and show you something, because I've called these people rhinos and all these things, but I want to back it up because I want some receipts here. So I'm going to show you this. I'm going to share my screen, and we're going to go to the 2022 LEA scorecard. So this is last year's scorecard from, there's really only two scorecards in this entire state, quite honestly, that I put any merit behind, Action for Liberties and LEA. So LEA, I'll just kind of read this quickly. It's established to inform citizens of Minnesota both important legislation and voting performance of each legislator, and they base their evaluation on our declared American founding principles of self-evident truths and inalienable rights. So essentially, are your folks voting constitutionally or not? So let's take a look. Here's their honorees from last year. There's 5 of us. I'm proud to have the highest score. Take a moment to point that out. So I feel like I can use this thing and to show you, they give an explanation of all their votes that they scorecarded. So let's go take a look at this. Here's the Senate scorecard from 2022. Now there's 2 scores. Here's 2022 score. Here's their career. I'm kind of getting on the weeds, but I beg people, look up how these people vote, because they'll never tell you to your face that they vote like Democrats. But here's the facts based on constitutionality of how they vote. So let's just take a peek here. Let's go. I'm just skimming this thing. Who have I talked about? Housley, Carr and Housley. Here's Carr and Housley, and 22%. 2022, the year 2022, she voted 22% of the time in alignment with our founding principles. 22%. That might be one of the worst that any Republican has on here. But that's Carr and Housley. And I know people think, oh, she's amazing. She ran for, was a governor in 4 years ago or something. Carr and Housley's terrible. Okay, she's terrible. And here's verifiable proof. Her lifetime score is only 42%. Let's keep skimming this thing. Who else can we talk about based on who I've already called out? Well, let's go take a look at my state senator. Here's Eric Pratt. Eric Pratt, 28% of the time voted constitutionally. So that means what? 72% of the time he would vote like a liberal Democrat in 2022. His lifetime score, 51%. Ooh, man, that's still an F, but only 49% of the time is in his 10 years in office has he actually voted like a Republican or someone who takes a constitutional oath seriously. Let's see, Paul Utke. Here's Paul Utke, 28% again. Like, these people are not defenders of liberty down at the Capitol. So the fact that these people are not supporting endorsed candidates because they love their grip on power, and only to go down to the Capitol and vote like Democrats, that there's good cause to say these people shouldn't be seated at conventions. These people have no principle. These people don't care about their constitutional oath, and this voting scorecard shows it. Who else have I talked about? Well, let's go down to Tony Jurgens here. He was in the House. So Tony Jurgens, now this will be a little skewed because Republicans were in the minority last year in the House. Well, they still are this year, 50%. It should be so easy to have a great scorecard if you're in the minority. You just pretty much vote no against everything the Democrats actually allow you to vote on. But he's a 50%er. Jordan Rasmussen, who was in the House last year. Where are you? Jordan Rasmussen, 63%. Well, I can't say that's all that impressive when the honorees are closer to what, 85, 90%. But it just goes to show these people are terrible. They have no principle. These people are rhinos. And I would say they shouldn't get seated at their convention because none of these people, they did. Utke, Pratt, Tony Jurgens, Karen Housley, Ann New, Kurt Dow. These people don't support endorsed candidates. They support the candidate that will do their bidding. That's who they support because it is a giant club at the Capitol. And if they get a feeling that a candidate is not going to join their little club and help them hide, then they don't want anything to do with them. And they will spend tens and tens of thousands of dollars against them, like they did to Mark Bishofsky, like they did to me. So let's see. I've got so much other stuff here, and I'll get to some comments because I'm dying to see what people are saying. I've shown you this. I played that. I mean, man, I feel like, so what can we do about it? If you've been holding out this long for 24 minutes and 39 seconds. So what can you do about it? Well, I would tell you, I'll change my screen here. You have to get involved, and I'll show you how. Here we go. I'll put a link to this thing in here. So Action for Liberty, who did a bunch of recruiting for caucuses, probably a lot of people that are watching or will be watching, you probably went to a class that Action for Liberty did, and to say, here's how you go to caucus, here's what you do at caucus, and you have to become a delegate. Now, if you did that a year ago, February 1st of last year, and you are a delegate, you should be attending your next convention. So Action for Liberty did a video I'll drop it in these comments, to show people about how to get involved at your BPOU convention. So that's in the comments. I would tell you, please go check that out. Watch that video, because in the next 20-ish days, that is when you have an opportunity to go to your convention and have a voice. Take over your BPOU. Run to become an officer. Run to be chair. Run to be vice chair. Run to be secretary. Get involved, because if you can get elected as leadership within your local party unit, that's where you have the ability to create influence, just like the people in Ottertail County are feeling that influence right now. So you can have the opportunity to take a principled stance, take leadership in your local party. Your local party probably meets once a month for an hour or two, probably at most 2 hours. Mine is a pretty intense BPOU. They meet once a month for probably 2.5, 3 hours, but most BPOUs are meeting, once a month for, I'd guess, probably 45 minutes to an hour. So if there's anything I can tell you to do to actually take a stand, do something meaningful, watch that video, reach out to your local BPOU, register to go to your BPOU convention, and become a state central delegate while you're there also. So your BPOU conventions, as this training will talk about, you're going to elect local party leadership at your BPOU level, which is the very smallest kind of basic party unit. You will elect leadership, and you will elect state central delegates. And why you want to be a state central delegate is you will go to the state central convention and you get to vote as to who leads the entire state Republican Party. And if you're like me, your mission is, I'm a state central delegate, my mission is to go clean house at state central. Our state party leadership has failed so miserably that they just need to go. So that's my mission. I'm assuming a lot of you have the same mission. So please check out the video, get to your BPOU convention, and check that out. I'm just going to go through some of these comments here. Let's see. Anybody got a question or something? I'm afraid. Okay, so Uric, I'm afraid it's so corrupt there's no fixing it. No, it's not true. It is not true. It can be fixed. Now it takes going to your convention, becoming a delegate, become a state central delegate, take over your local party. Maybe this will give you some hope for people like Uric here. My BPOU convention was last Saturday, and we were organized. We spent weeks calling people, texting people, making sure they're going to show up. They, being the establishment, Eric Pratt, Ben Bakeberg, Tony Albright, Bob Lunan, the old guard down here in Scott County, they also clearly put some work in. And it was a matter of who's going to put the most amount of work in and turn people out. Well, we won. Our entire Scott County BPOU are liberty-minded, principled people. The entire board. We kicked their ass up and down the court. We had 7 state central delegates positions. You know how many out of the 7 we got? All of them. We got them all. They walked out of there. They flat out on their way out said, "Man, I feel like I got hit by a freight train." That's apparently what Senator Eric Pratt said. And it was like, yeah, you pretty much were. We kicked your ass. So to have this attitude, it's too corrupt, can't fix it. No, bullshit. You can fix it. You have to get off the couch. You have to stop watching Netflix. You have to actually show up at these conventions and get involved. And let me just take a second to talk about this, because I was talking to somebody the other day about it. This whole notion of, well, we need a third party, because I know there are a lot of people that say we just need another party. If you want to put your energy into that, have at it. If you really want to, I would tell you it's a waste of time. Okay, parties are led by people, and people can become corrupted. You want to spend time putting together, I saw a constitutional republic party. I think it's a waste of time. I think it is far easier and a much easier lift to just take over the existing party unit, because that is, over the next 4 months, we have that opportunity. Between this month and then this spring at State Central, we can do that. It's really not that hard. But to get a third party off the ground and even tell people what the heck is this third party, and put conventions together and get the right number of votes in a statewide election so you can actually be on the ballot, That's a heavy lift. I think it's a waste of time. Just pour good people and good energy into the existing party structure. That is way easier. Richard Jensen, you'll be amazed at what goes on if you will get involved in your BPO. Yeah, you will. I mean, there are a lot of new people in my BPO in the last year, and I saw a bunch of them last Saturday, and you could just see like their cogs turning and them going, oh, I see. This is real. Like there is a political establishment that wants nothing to do with principles, nothing to do with delivering results. They want everything to do with power. And then there are the grassroots people that are sick and tired of getting their backs stabbed by these people. Like that's it. Those are the two forces in really in politics, I would say. And I think that lives in both the Republican Party, the Democrat Party. That's a very real thing. And if you go to it, you'll quickly see how real that is. Yeah, Nathan Miller. Thank you, Rachel. I couldn't remember his last name. Let's see. How do we know who we voted for? Yeah, well, that's a good question. Because they would have no clue who you actually voted for, but I'm sure, people saw stuff on Facebook and whatever, and they're speculating. Brad Thompson, what can we do? I just talked about that. I'm sure that comment's a little old. Go to that video. I put a link in and get involved in your local BPOU. If you're not a delegate because you didn't go to caucus last year, you can still go to these BPOU meetings. You can be a guest at your convention coming up. Just reach out to your local BPOU and get involved. Tell them, my name is whatever, Brad Thompson. I want to get involved in this stuff and start attending these meetings. They're open to public. You can go to these things. If you're a delegate, you really have to go. Dan Efforts asked if we're getting rid of the caucus. No, we're still a caucus state. There's movement for people to get rid of it and get rid of endorsements, but we have not done that. Let's see. We saw this country. Yeah, Jerome, I'm with you. Like Pratt's, he's got a terrible voting record. That's why I wanted to pull up the records, because it's one thing to say these people are no good, but when you go to a good scorecard, and let me tell you about a bad scorecard, they'll all refer to their CPAC scorecard and how great that CPAC makes them look. And oh my gosh, I mean, they don't scorecard omnibus bills. It should be very, very easy. Pretty much every Republican should get an A on something like their CPAC scorecard. That's why I don't put a lot of faith in some of these things, because like I talked about, this is a club. A lot of these organizations pick and choose which votes that they scorecard in order to make their preferred politicians look good. The perfect example of this is Minnesota Citizens Concern for Life, MCCL. They always refuse to scorecard the Health and Human Services Omnibus Bill vote, because that's the bill and that's the vote that publicly funds abortion. So when they just conveniently choose not to scorecard the one vote that's used to publicly fund abortion, of course, these people look like they're amazing and they talk about how great their MCCL scorecard is. Well, if you take a test and your teacher doesn't grade the ones you got wrong, it's pretty easy to get a good grade on that test. Let's see. I'm just going to skim these real quick. Yeah, Fishbach. Do you go to the meetings? Richard Jensen. I'm assuming he's talking to me. Yeah, I get to him. Ours was just last week. Jen Wagner was there. You saw what happened. It is Julia Coleman at 22. Yeah, Julia Coleman. I'm telling you, the 2022 Senate Republican caucus was horrible. It was really, really bad. Now, people like Drazkowski and Cal Barr and Nathan Wiesenberg, even Eric Lucero votes well. They're going to, I think, pull them up and make them look a lot better. But let's see. Eric Mortensen, I heard this was going to happen last December at a political Christmas party, and I'm not sure what you're talking about there. Somebody said, check my phone. Okay. All right. Well, I'm not going to bore you guys by looking at my phone while I'm doing this. So Sue says that's all well and good if your county is not already gone. Well, again, you could have that attitude that the county is just gone, but if you did a good job organizing a caucus honestly, got to start probably like 3 months before. I started calling people in November of 2021 for caucus of February 1st, 2022. You put that effort in, you get people in your county BPOU to show up to caucus, get them to become elected delegates. It really, I would say it doesn't, you can't consider these things gone, because every 2 years you elect new delegates. So if you didn't do a good job in 2022 of organizing, get people to show up, well, you've got less than a year now. It'll be February of 2024 when you'll have caucuses again, and you can put that work in and get people to show up. And I would use that time right now to start networking with people in your county, get people to know what the heck caucus is. You got a long runway, you got 11 months, but I'm telling you, it can be done. Start having meetups with folks and make sure they know how to get involved. I'm going to keep it at that because I'm already gone here 35 minutes, but I will recap this real quick for folks that are wondering what the heck was going on. Ottertail County, corruption going on. They stole this endorsement of this clown, Jordan Rasmussen, who votes like a Democrat, and donated $40,000 to the HRCC, which is like the telltale sign the guy's no good. When you donate $40,000 to the HRCC, who then, of course, the HRCC turns around, and what do? I'll show you again. The HRCC trained unendorsed candidates on how to run a campaign against an endorsed candidate. Here's Tina Riley's name right above Ann New, who's doing this training last August. Training Tina Riley to run a campaign against Mark Bischofsky, the endorsed candidate who won bigly at that convention. So Jordan Rasmussen, no good. They stacked the deck, illegally put delegates on the rolls. And then this guy up in Ottertail County, Tommy Miracle, I call him the Swamp King on this. These are types of scumbags that are behind the scenes that fund these organizations. And they block out good grassroots people who just want to make a difference and have principled legislators get elected. And this guy is not one of those principled legislators. So, and he stole the endorsement. So I can understand why people were upset. But if their crime, again, if they're not being seated as delegates in Ottertail County because they didn't support an endorsed candidate, well, Senator Paul Lutke should not be seated at his convention. Eric Pratt should have been seated. Tony Jurgens, who endorsed a Democrat, shouldn't be seated at his convention. Ann New shouldn't be seated at her convention. Kurt Dowd shouldn't be seated. Michelle Fischbach shouldn't be seated. Even David Hahn and the entire executive board, who took away state party access from endorsed candidates last year, like Natalie Barnes, they took away her access. Well, then I would say they shouldn't get seated either. So don't fall for this unity crap. Anybody who tells you, hey, we just need to unify, ask them, what are we unifying behind? Is it just behind you as a person, or are we unifying behind our platform and our principles and the ideas of liberty? Because I'm all about unifying behind that. But as I showed you in these voting records, a lot of these guys, they don't care about that. They just want to be unified behind them so that they can sit in their comfy, cushy offices and feel high and mighty about themselves because it is a drug to them. They do not want to give it up. So that's what I've got for everybody. Please, I'm going to put this link in one more time. And I never say this, but, share this video because people need to know what is going on out there. So they're empowered and informed to take action. So I just threw that link on there again. Watch that video, get involved. Jen Wagner's in my BPOU. She got involved and is part of keeping the swamp out of our leadership and off of our state central delegation list. So with that, have a great Super Bowl Sunday, everybody. And I say go Chiefs because screw the Eagles after what they did to the Vikes in 2018. So go Chiefs, go Mahomes. Have a good Super Bowl Sunday.